APEC security operations launched. Health laws being reviewed. And revelations of theft at medical stores.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Monday's news. To APEC News First, and security is a go. The keynote address that was to be read out by Minister for APEC, Jacinta Chenko, during the launch of the biggest security operation in the country's history was delivered in military style. Members of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force brought in the speech on a helicopter, slid down ropes and escorted the speech into the parade ground. The soldiers who brought in the speech were fully armed and dressed in full camouflage, something the public did not expect.
The Joint Security Task Force, the team in charge of security for the 21 APEC world leaders, launched their joint operation in Port Moresby today. It was done so through a joint parade led by the Correctional Services Pipes and Drums Band. Each disciplinary force was represented by at least 2 platoons from selected units. This included PNGDF naval officers, PNGDF airmen and women, and the Maritime Police. The parade marched past a line of vehicles which will be used during the joint security operation, which commences today.
Everything comes forward to the Leaders Summit and to the CEO Summit. We will be APEC ready. On behalf of our government, we have done so much to ensure that this event will be a success, and your contribution to provide security on air, land and sea is paramount to ensure our leaders from the 21 leading economies are safe and sound in our capital city, Port Moresby.
But it was the manner in which the keynote address was escorted into the parade ground that surprised everyone. First, the flying in of the PNGDF helicopter. Then the climbing down of specially trained soldiers via a rope. And later, the escorting of the speech into the parade ground. It has been 4 years since the start of the preparations for the security operations for the APEC Leaders Week. The national government has acknowledged the support provided by our military partners. The parade today marks the start of the APEC security operations for 2018. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Health Minister Sepuka Temu says work has begun to amend the law to clarify the functions of district development authorities and provincial health authorities. This is among topics being discussed at a 3-day consultation on the reviewing of PNG health laws. The consultations began today.
The consultation on reviewing health laws forms part of the ongoing review of PNG health-related laws led by the Health Department. Minister in charge, Dr. Puka Temu, said the department is trying to redefine the roles that DDAs and PHAs have in the health system.
Some of the specific laws that I have given instruction for them to look at is how do we align the organic law on provincial governments and local level government, which is the service delivery legal framework around the country. And that particular law has a specific section on health, Section 42N. Section 42N talks about rural health. So we develop a health sector administration law, National Health Administration Act.
The government provides health functional grants to PHAs, and on top of that, the provincial governments also receive health grants under provincial budgets. Dr. Pukatemu said these grants will be utilized well only when proper laws are in place to define the functions and responsibilities of each body.
We are trying to redefine who is going to be responsible for what health program. For example, currently, health training, health medical supply procurement, those remain national functions. Provincial hospitals and rural health aid posts right up to the district hospitals are under the provincial health authorities.
Through the amendment, PHA and DDAs will be able to work together to see a large coverage of health service delivery.
Solomon Islands are here as well. They are doing the health reforms as well. We've got hospital CEOs, we've got district CEOs, we've got PHA chairmen, we've got foundation like Allsets Foundation. They are all here to contribute because they have the experience of delivering under the current legislative framework. And my view is the current legislative framework is making service delivery breaking up from national right to the village level.
The minister said the bottom line of amending health laws in the country is to make sure the delivery of health services reach everyone, especially those at the villages who make up bulk of the country's population. Charlene Airy, National EMTV News.
And the health minister says recent medical shortages in certain parts of the country have partly come about as a result of theft in medical supplies. Certain medical health workers in the area medical stores stationed in different provinces have been caught stealing medical supplies.
According to the health minister, there have been thefts in medical supplies committed by health workers who have been caught on CCTV cameras set up by the health department in those area medical stores. Speaking during the consultation on the review of PNG health-related laws held today in Port Moresby, the minister expressed concerns regarding the issue of theft of medical supplies around health centers in the country.
One of the things that I mentioned in a public statement was we now put CCTVs in area medical stores just to cut out the theft that is going on. So we have caught some people, some of our staff.
One of the reasons of shortage, like
that's, well, there people are stealing drugs, and you know there is about over 3,000 health workers, and if they take one packet of amoxil, 3,000 of them, then that's 40,000 amoxil that's missing that week.
In recent reports on EMTV News, it was discovered that people in the rural clinics of Morobe, Western Highlands and Medang provinces did not receive their medical supplies due to the shortages. However, as confirmed today by the minister responsible, a container which contained medical supplies bound for Lae was later discovered to have already been in Port Moresby during that time.
Urban clinics ran out of antibiotics. We proved that, and then we found that their container was still here in Moresby, and the media is reporting. We knew, and then so we checked it out, and it was sitting there. So I said, Secretary, please, get the people are suffering, so move it over. And then it arrived within no time, and by now they should have already got all the urban clinics and their antibiotics and Panadol and others.
The health minister highlighted that communication is the key in achieving a smooth delivery of medical supplies into rural medical centers in the country. He has urged CEOs of health centers and managers of area medical stores to work together to ensure medical equipment and medicines are available at the clinics. Elizabeth Guka, National EMTV News.
A major savings and loan society has announced plans to one day evolve into a commercial bank. In an interview with EMTV News, NAS Fund Contributors Savings and Loan Society has explained the reasons behind an ambition to be a one-stop shop bank by the year 2020. Since it commenced operations in 2003, NAS Fund Contributors Savings and Loan Society has grown to become one of the largest societies in the country. NCSL recently celebrated its 15th anniversary. EMTV News spoke to the society's chairman and general manager on the journey so far. According to NCSL chairman Ian Taratia, the positive growth by the society has been made possible by sound management over the years.
The growth of the NCSL or NAS Fund Contributors Savings and Loan Society has been a story of success based on a vision to provide a more meaningful service to the NAS Fund members, but underpinned by good governance and a strong platform that has a lot of focus on using technology as our main enablers to deliver the services that we want for our members.
From just under 10,000 contributors when it began, NCSL's growth over 15 years has seen total contributions now exceed 100 million kina. But there is room for more growth, with the society opening up membership to contributors from outside a NAS Fund.
We start off with 9,000 members and about 11 million kina in voluntary savings. Today, it's about 180 million in total assets, and we've got 110,000 members. But the growth has been what our members see as of the value that we provide to them. So we've got a couple of savings products. There's huge potential. We've opened up our membership to non-NAS Fund members. So if you look at what I believe the active working population of PNG to be, we could potentially end up with about 2 million contributors from the workforce.
At the management level, a large part of the operations focus is on improving service to members who are located throughout the country. This has been done through various mediums, most notably through electronic channels.
When you look after your members well, they would be your advocates. Our service delivery channels, we now have them through the online portals. Members can access our service through the mobile phones, or they can walk into any of our 19 locations. We want to be as user-friendly as possible on all our channels.
Whilst NCSL has been in operation for 15 years, it is already aiming to expand its offering. A major focus now is on evolving into a commercial bank. NCSL has set itself an ambitious target to become a one-stop shop bank by the year 2020.
The idea behind that is that PNG has a growing population, and we have only 4 banks. There is room for more banks. There is a change in the Savings and Loans Act. So the changes under the revised Act allow for us to naturally progress into a banking environment. So we are already in an environment where we can operate as a bank, while still retaining the benefits of a savings and loan society.
Given the current economic environment, the national government has been challenged to ensure that service delivery improves regardless. Giving his thoughts on the yet-to-be-released 2019 national budget, Executive Director of the Institute of National Affairs, Paul Barker, has said, in an environment of ever-increasing costs, the national government must carefully consider how to raise revenue without having to burden the ordinary Papua New Guinean. His comments come on the backdrop of suggestions that there could be an increase in taxes, particularly the goods and services tax.
Well, obviously, the Treasury...
Institute of National Affairs Executive Director Paul Barker has said that whilst Papua New Guinea's economy may be showing signs of slight improvement, the challenge of revenue collection is one that will remain for the next few years. With the government's need to raise further revenue, there have been calls to either increase the level of personal income tax, which would affect wage earners earning more than 10,000 kina per year. However, there have also been calls to increase the level of the Goods and Services Tax, GST, from the current 10%, which would ultimately see prices for all goods and services in the country increase.
The Treasury has got to look at the revenue side. The expenditure side is what people are interested in, but if you haven't got the revenue, then you can't have the expenditure. And if you are having to borrow, as we have been since particularly 2012, since when we've been having this budget deficit, we've been basically borrowing to be able to sustain expenditure. Obviously, that has resulted in increasingly debt servicing becoming the third largest component of our expenditure.
With personal income tax contributing the largest proportion of the country's revenue, it is only paid by a small proportion of citizens. According to Mr. Baka, if the government is thinking of increasing taxes, it must do so without having to place more burden on Papua New Guineans.
The government will want to make sure that it is getting sustainable, tangible revenue. This current year, we got quite a bit of revenue from that regularization legislation, but that's a once-off transfer, and to some extent it jeopardizes the operational activities of regulatory authorities that in themselves have some responsibility over collecting portions of revenue as well. So,
on proposed expenditure, Mr. Baka is adamant that the government has made progress on this front, particularly with the recently launched third medium-term development plan. He says the focus now is clear, with expenditure to be tied to government priorities, but the challenge of efficient and successful implementation remains.
But at the end of the day, crucial is for the state to also be looking at the bigger picture of how it not only how it spends money and how it gets the revenue, that it is spending efficiently. So getting that governance in place so that we stop wasting money on excessively expensive contracts.
Here with National EMTV News this Monday, still ahead, some good news for TFF into schools in the Morobe province. That story and more when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. A refugee who has been living in Manus for 5 years says 7 have died from preventable health problems. Benem Sata, a Kurdish refugee who has been living in Port Moresby for the last 7 months, says the deaths of the refugees in Manus resulted from a lack of mental and physical health care over the past 5 years. Benem said this during a panel discussion on Manus refugees that was hosted by the Catholic Bishops' Conference and the Catholic Professional Society last week. The panel discussion was the first independent discussion about the plight of refugees on Manus. Former human rights activist and now National Capital District Governor, Puas Pakop, was also present for the event and admitted that the asylum seekers arrangement was more in favor of Australia than Papua New Guinea. All schools in Morobe province will now receive the 85% of tuition fee-free funds directly from the Morobe Provincial Administration through the national government. Education Minister Nick Kuman said the 15% will be held back by the government to cater for procurement costs to contractors responsible for distribution of teaching and learning materials to schools in remote areas. An agreement was signed last week by Morobe Provincial Administration and the Education Department to strengthen the functions of TFF in Morobe.
Teachers from the schools in Lae and other districts in Morobe gathered yesterday at the St. Paul's Primary School in Lae to witness the signing of the MOA between the Morobe Provincial Administration and the Department of Education. The signing was to strengthen the decentralization of 85% of tuition fee-free funds to the schools in Morobe Province. Education Minister Nick Kuman said the 15% will be held back by the government.
We will only give you 15% of the commodity component. The government will continue to retain that and making sure that the commodity components are at the school at the beginning of its academic year. A pilot project was conducted in 2014 when I was Board Minister. And then after that, we realized that it's a good program we must continue, and the government has made a decision to do that. And we will continue to do that until such time when we fully decentralize the TFF program. Then responsibility is WE+, so you let it running now. Our job is just to concentrate on the policy aspect of it and see whether you're doing the right thing or you're doing the wrong thing.
Over the past years, most schools throughout the country have raised concerns over the delay of TFF funds into schools and the outstanding TFF payment by the government. Morbe was one of the provinces that was affected with outstanding in TFF payments. With the signing of the MOA, the 85% of TFF payments will be paid directly to schools by the provincial administration through the national government. Morbe is the third province to decentralize TFF, apart from Enga and New Island province.
It decided that before the end of 2019 or 18, we have to roll out to Morobe, East Britain and Milne Bay provinces. Obviously, from what the Minister said this morning, the other three provinces are provinces that are under the decentralized or more decentralized functions. But Morobe and Milne Bay has been chosen because of the unique capacities that they have and interest in education and the proven record of administration and the leadership that's in the province. So the government felt comfortable to include these two provinces as well.
Morbe Provincial Administration will facilitate the TFF payments to schools, monitor implementation and report on the distribution of the TFF funds. The Governor for Morbe, Ginson Saunu, says there will be mechanisms in place to monitor and manage the TFF money in Morbe.
When the school starts, money and everything from the TFF is already readily available at the provincial headquarters, so we don't have to wait for the national government, National Department of Education to transfer it. So that is one. Another is from the province we know exactly the geographical locations of schools and so forth, so we can easily manage so that we can get the implementation done on time, and so that our students in schools in the province can receive what is really belong to them on time, so that we can see the improvement in education in the province.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Ley.
National Planning Minister Richard Maru has commended Ley's NID officers for being the first to register prisoners at Buimo Jail during a recent visit. The officers began by training some prisoners in September on how to complete the NID forms, who then assisted other prisoners in completing their forms. So far, 250 prisoners have registered, with 850 yet to be registered under the NID program. Minister Maru has called on the NID officers in other provinces to do the same in registering all prisoners in correctional service facilities.
I think they are doing a good job in Buimo. Each of all prisoners had to buy all registration, so we need to bring the service to them. We can only encourage them more line lay now offices, go to the institutions using more mobile unit na go na register more. Plenty you meet to go come register no sakam. They're too busy doing other things. So we need to get out and register people. Also na mito miblo by improving the capacity of lay office na Morobe, so they can go out na enrollments including Minsalo CIS too na. And me hamas lay office bla taking very active step local CIS na me hopeful that office long country must be an example of lay office. So me hamas true na me proud true law office lo lay lo. Ibla lo Morobe lo ibla sign out lo area lo consat lo CIS na enrolling mo the line lo CIS. Good plan move. And people talk thank you na people look savelo.
Ward members of the Koyari local level government in Central Province have been challenged to take ownership of development taking place within their areas. The ward members were here today at the Central Provincial Headquarters to witness a presentation for the Kokoda Track Initiative. Central Province Governor Robert Agarobe, who spoke during the ceremony, urged the ward members to take ownership of developments that take place especially along the Kokoda Track.
The ward members come from the 6 wards located along the central side of the Kokoda Track to witness the 500,000 kina check presented to them by the Conservation and Environment Protection Authority. Central Governor Robert Agarobe, when receiving the check, says the track is an important part of the country's history and they must have plans to develop that track.
It's good that we are building a good relationship with the Department of Environment Conservation. It's important because of the track. The track is historical to us and Australians, and we need to develop it.
The central province depends mainly on agriculture to generate internal revenue, and they are also developing the tourism industry, and products such as Kokoda Trek will generate more revenue for the province. The governor urged the ward members to initiate development plans for their people under the Kokoda initiative so that they can take ownership of the services they initiated and look after it for their benefit.
Over the last how many years, 20 years since the track has been operating, we haven't really benefited from this track. So we need to develop that product now, and to get a lump sum of money like this, I don't want us to just go and eat it up. We have to park this money well so that we can reinvest it well to actually help economically empower people.
The governor also urged the people of Koyari to develop cash crops so that they can capitalize on to generate revenue for the province and to improve their living standards along the Kokoda Trek. The check presented to them will go a long way in supporting development projects under the Kokoda initiative. Rayon Lakingu, National MTV News.
Another round of polio vaccination started in Leh today and will continue for 2 weeks. Morobe Provincial Program Advisor for Health, Micah Yawing, says they will be targeting all children aged 15 and below in this round.
Polio teams in Leh started conducting round 4 of polio vaccinations this morning. Provincial Program Advisor for Health, Micah Yawing, says the target population has increased to over 300,000 children for this round. This is because they will also be vaccinating children from ages 5 to 15.
Like in the past, we were concentrating on 0 to 5 years. Now we're concentrating on 5 to 15 as well. So we're looking at 0 to 15 years old. So you can see the challenge that we have in the province.
In July this year, a polio outbreak was declared in Morobe after 1 case was detected in Leh. 3 other cases were detected during the last 3 rounds of vaccinations, but are yet to be confirmed, says Mr. Yawing.
If there's suspected cases, they visit them and make sure they get a sample, so that once a sample go down to public laboratory and then go to offices like America and Australia, they confirm, that's it. But so far 3 cases only.
Teams conducting polio vaccinations have also been sent out to the 8 districts. Vaccinations started today and will continue for the next 2 weeks. Mr. Yawing is urging all parents and guardians of children aged 15 and below to ensure their children are vaccinated.
Like first round, second round, third round, our children is a gift and very important, and make sure the children must come for the 4th round to get vaccinated. And in doing so, we'll protect our children, and that's the best we can do for our children in this country, in the province. Yeah.
Lucy Kopana, National MTV News, Leh.
Here with National MTV News this Monday, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas. When we come back, stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, America's midterm elections are into a final 2 days of frantic campaigning, and Georgia has become a focal point for the key issue of race.
Rallying cry from Donald Trump in Georgia.
This is one of the most important elections of our lifetime.
As this year's most watched race enters its final stage. On one side, Democrat Stacey Abrams. If elected, she will be America's first female black governor.
This is our Georgia. This is our state. And nobody's going to tell us who belongs in our state.
But this is also ground zero for allegations of voter suppression swirling around the midterms.
How concerned are you about voter suppression?
I'm concerned about people being afraid of voting because of voter suppression. We know that voter suppression is not simply about blocking the vote. It's about making people afraid of being able to cast a vote.
And this is the man Abrams is accusing of suppressing votes, Brian Kemp, who Republicans are praying will keep the state red.
Amen.
Kemp isn't just running in this election, he's also overseeing it as the current Secretary of State.
What do you say to people who say that you should stand aside from overseeing the election?
Well, again, that's just a smokescreen to, hide her radical agenda.
Right now, his office is blocking 53,000 new voter registrations, mostly African Americans, due to discrepancies in their paperwork. like a spelling mistake or a missing hyphen.
Are you suppressing votes?
Absolutely not. I am following the law that we have in Georgia to keep our rolls secure.
The issue's deepening divisions in this already polarised race.
For me personally, as an African American, so many people have fought for this opportunity, and here we are still fighting. That's a shame.
And so Georgia has become a proxy war for Republicans and Democrats.
Here in Georgia, an incredibly tough campaign is taking place, and it's mostly happening not in those big arenas or town halls, but out here in the small communities. And one thing we're hearing from both sides is that America is divided just days out from going to the polls.
We need to just come together with this thing, because we are the United States, okay? Other countries are looking at us, and they are laughing at us, okay?
It's more attack. And that just doesn't do our country any good.
Has it become personal as well?
I'm afraid so.
Right now, Abrams is inching ahead, but both sides are keenly aware that turnout will be crucial on Wednesday.
On Sunday, New Zealand and the world will mark 100 years since the end of the Great War. The battlegrounds, the trenches, fell silent at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. Around 100,000 brave New Zealanders, 10% of the population back then, served from 1914.
A mournful Waiata in the autumnal shadow of medieval walls that Kiwi soldiers bravely scaled to liberate a tiny French town.
Today, we remember all the New Zealanders who took part.
The service presided over by the same army unit that fought at Lequenoir 100 years ago. Among the 1,300 here today, hundreds of direct descendants.
Very touching. Yeah, 100 years later, it's pretty amazing.
All in shared awe of the soldiers' bravery. 82-year-old Gordon Vile decided at the last minute to come see the town his father helped to liberate.
But he never talked about the war, never, really. It was just something he wanted to put aside. It's been a wonderful experience. I'm just so glad I've come.
For others, though, today was bittersweet.
Very emotional.
Captain Arthur Reginald Blennerhassett died in the battle to save the town.
We've seen it more as a commemoration than certainly not a celebration.
When the Kiwi soldiers arrived in this town 100 years ago, they were greeted with hugs and kisses from grateful locals, and it's a town that's never forgotten. In fact, all over the place you'll find Kiwi flags in the windows and Kiwi memorabilia.
It's extraordinary. I've never felt anything quite like it. We saved the town. We didn't bomb the town. We scaled the walls in a way that nobody thought was possible. It's a heroic and sort of very Kiwi story, isn't it?
We are very, very grateful to the New Zealand to save our town.
Then at exactly 4 p.m, 100 years to the minute after Leslie Averill went up the ladder, so too did his grandson on a replica version.
A little bit scary. I don't know if the ladder 100 years ago was as rickety as that, but it's only when you're here and you look up, just you realise how high the wall is.
And as the day drew to a close, another more intimate service. A lone piper playing a tribute he composed especially. Marking a day this town vows never to forget.
To take us to Trukai Sports, imagine being able to teleport yourself to sports games anywhere in the world and have a better seat than anyone else in the stadium. Now that's a reality. New technology is being rolled out at sports grounds across the US. It allows fans to step inside a virtual stadium in their own living rooms.
From grainy black, white and grey,
looks like a boundary,
to the 1970s and 80s.
He's gone right through the middle of them again.
Supercharged and in colour. We've got used to flat screens, high definition camera angles and access like never before.
Is the reception for them?
And now, direct from the US, the very latest in how to watch your favourite sport, virtual reality.
It's changing the way that sports fans are going to be able to watch their favourite team play.
We are inside the world's first virtual reality live broadcast truck.
So we have 9 cameras out there tonight and they're wrapped all the way around the field, and we have a production crew in here of about 20 people producing tonight's game.
Tonight, Barcelona is playing Tottenham in the International Championships. Champions Cup. And around the field, these odd-looking double-lens virtual reality cameras have been specially positioned with mind-bending technology bringing viewers closer than any seat in the stadium.
So if you're in a headset, you would literally feel as if you were sitting behind the goal.
Illustrating what virtual reality looks and feels like here on television is virtually impossible. But the NBA has seized on the potential, featuring all the finals this year in VR.
And here's where this technology goes to a whole new level. Here on the sideline, one of the best seats in the house. With this headset, not only can I get the very same seat anywhere in the world, I can take my friends with me.
With a headset and a Wi-Fi connection, it can be a night out, at home, with friends watching the same event, each with their own avatar.
So you could be in Sydney, I could be in Perth, we could be watching the game together and feel like we're actually there. But you talk and have conversations and socialise in VR as well.
Do you think we'll ever leave the house again?
No.
And on that note, we go for a quick break and be back with some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. To begin with football, the PNG senior women's football team has moved into camp ahead of the OFC Women's Nations Cup. The team will be trained by Toti City Dwellers coach Peter Gunemba before the first match on the 18th of this month.
Players have been selected from Lae, Madang, Kimbe, Simbu, Goroka and Port Moresby. The team also sees the inclusion of Mari Kaipu from NCD PSSA, who joined the team to add experience up front. Coach Peter Gunemba has plans in place to start preparing his team for the upcoming event. 23 players have been selected and will see a week-long training camp in Lae. The tournament will be held in New Caledonia starting from the 18th of November to the 1st of December. The winner of this tournament will represent the Oceania region, qualifying for the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup in France. PNG has been placed in Pool A with Samoa, hosts New Caledonia and Tahiti. PNG plays Samoa on the 18th of November, then New Caledonia on the 21st and Tahiti on the 24th of November. The final travelling team will be named on Wednesday. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
4 PNG referees will be returning to the country after participating in the annual FIFA Futuro 3 course in Auckland this week. Jimmy Harai, Hilary Ani, David Yerbonin and David Charles have gone through the course covering futsal, beach soccer and football with different instructors. The main idea of the course was to achieve consistency in the application of the laws of the game. The course has been set up to help get referees up to speed in preparation for 2019. To racing now, in the 2018 Melbourne Cup race will give one lucky winner a chance to walk away with a grand cash prize of 100,000 kina from dividends made by Pacific Horse Racing. International horses taking part in this year's race are from Ireland, France, New Zealand and Germany. The winning horse and jockey will take home after the race a cash prize of $7.2 million.
They say it's the race that stops the nation. Well, in Australia, but here in PNG, Panthers at the Pacific Racing started buying tickets as early as 8 a.m. yesterday, and I spoke to the managers at Pacific Racing to give us a bit of an update into tomorrow's event. Take a listen to what they had to say.
It's a very hard cup again this year. There's a lot of chances, and I'd say out of those 24 runners, and there's probably 20 horses could win. So if you're having a pick yourself, you can pick any horse that you like.
Melbourne Cup is a race that stops a nation. And like Peter has said, number 11, New Sutton, is a favourite. And we have a Caulfield Cup winner, Best Solution. And we have 3 horses from Godolphin. Godolphin, they are a very good owner. And they have good horses.
Today, punters kept the Pacific Racing betting shop busy, not only for betting on the lead-up games, but also to bet on their favorite horses. Now, I spoke to an enthusiastic crowd as well of punters who are here at the Pacific Racing regarding tomorrow's event, as well as tips for those of you who are also looking to buy tickets or purchase tickets for the Melbourne Cup tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the race, but
for me, actually, I don't have a tip, but I live with their tip on the screen. When it fluctuates, I'll choose my horse from there.
I'm going for horse number 1, 6, and 16.
Tomorrow in the Melbourne Cup, the Big La Deblo Mibla Lopasu racing inside Lopot Mosby.
Now tomorrow Big La Deblo Australia and Papua New Guinea one time. Also the crowd by walking, I play good also. I'm regular vendors now we play long play now we need some money. Tomorrow I'm betting Melbourne Cup doesn't have like some now watching TV and I'm like relax and stuff.
While responsible gambling is recommended, Neil and Peter from Pacific Racing also took time to give some tips on the race.
The favourite is Yucatan, and it's got very good form. And also number 1 won the Caulfield Cup, so that's always a good lead up.
Our prize money is 100,000 kina, and the bet limit is minimum is 2 kina.
Gates to the Pacific Racing betting shop will open at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow, and punters that haven't purchased their tickets are encouraged to do so early as the race starts at 2 p.m. Now, the winner of the Melbourne Cup 2018 will take home 7.2 million. Of course, that's for the horse and the jockey. But back here in Papua New Guinea, Panthers will be looking to win major prize cash of 100,000 kina. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
And while you're thinking about your bets for tomorrow's big race, we go for a break and be back with more of Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Kiwi UFC fighter Israel Adesanya is being touted as the sport's next big superstar. Yesterday's win at Madison Square Garden in New York was the rookie fighter's 4th win in just 10 months.
The self-titled Black Kiwi dances to his own beat. Nigerian-born middleweight Israel Adesanya has a perfect record, last night claiming his 15th MMA win and his 4th in the UFC. And the organisation's boss knows he's the real deal.
Madison Square Garden, opening the show, and man, did he deliver. And, you know, many people, including me, think this kid is the future.
Absolutely.
And he went out and put a stamp on it tonight.
The first round win also earning Adesanya a quick 50 grand for performance of the night.
I never want to feel vulnerable in any situation. I never want to feel like another guy can have me, you know, so yeah, my ego was what drove me here.
The 9th ranked 29-year-old's meteoric rise in the sport isn't a surprise to strength and conditioning trainer Sun Singh. Having trained a number of professional athletes, Singh's been witness to Adesanya's dedication for 4.5 years.
He has a vision, he puts it out there and he goes, I'm going to do this, and he makes it happen. He doesn't back away from anything.
Adesanya's vision includes a Trans-Tasman showdown with middleweight champion Robert Whittaker. Barring injury, that could happen in February next year.
And what makes sense is what the people want to see, and the people want to see me. They don't want to see the same old dance, the same old shit, the same old guys who've had chances after chances at title shots, you know.
The boss, though, isn't so keen. Not yet, at least.
I don't want to move him as fast as he wants to be moved, so he and I will get together and find a happy medium.
However fast or slow the UFC wheel moves, it seems Israel Adesanya's hell-bent on reinventing it.
And that ends Trukai Sports for this evening. We go for a break and be back with a quick look at the weather for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A quick look at the weather for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Partly cloudy for Port Moresby, mostly fine for Daru, a shower or two for Kerma, cloudy weather for Alatau and Popondetta.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, it was the grand final of EMTV's Vocal Fusion Season 6 last night. The 4 remaining contestants sang their hearts out, but it was Samuel Sampson from Mount Hagen who took out the major prize. Here are the highlights.
Shine bright like a diamond. 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 Oh.
It was supposedly glamorous but quite simple. As is with any grand performer, the 5 remaining contestants showed a bit of nervousness before the show. The night kicked off with a group performance by the 5. Which saw Genesis Aaron voted out afterward, leaving only 4 in the race for the grand prize. All 4 contestants sang 2 songs each, first one from the movies and second a song of their own choice.
Oh, you know I saw a city burning inside the mind. If I risk it all, just call to say how much I could do.
Guest judge on the night, New Zealand platinum recording artist Jay Williams performed during the halftime show alongside resident judge 04 and of course the 4 contestants Rava, Elisha, Samuel and Christopher. Just before the announcement of the winner, resident judge Lavina Williams joined her brother on the stage for the final guest act. By the end of the night, the nerves were back as the contestants waited on to hear the final results.
Here are the winners.
Samuel Sampson from Mount Hagen Auditions was declared winner for Vocal Fusion Season 6.
Go crazy, Mount Hagen, Chocolate City, Samuel Sampson.
Rava Gandari was first runner-up, Christopher Vella second and Elisha Kuliniasi third runner-up. Samuel Sampson, winner of MTV's Vocal Fusion Season 6, wrapped up the show singing All for One's I Swear. Helen Seah, National EMTV News.
And congratulations once again to Mr. Samuel Sampson. That's how we begin this working week on behalf of the entire EMTV News team from right around the country. Pleasant viewing. Good night.